seeing this debris tidal wave come down the street, it just swallowed people up. You would see them running, and then it would just envelop them, and it would just keep going, right? So I was at a company that was about 2 blocks away from the trade center, and I was there when all that stuff went down, and it
Oh my
was,
god.
as you can imagine, it was a nightmare. It was terrible. Like, the things that you saw and heard being 2 blocks away, it was just
I can't
terrible.
even imagine.
Well, I mean, if you've seen the news footage, right, or any
Yes.
of the documentaries, I mean, that's what it was like. And I remember I was at my desk, and you could hear all the calamity out in the street, and they didn't. The people who were managing the company that I was at, they
Uh-huh.
came on the loudspeaker and they're like, "Nobody leave," because they didn't want you to go outside and get hurt.
Increase the panic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But if you looked out on the street, people were running around, and the streets were shut off. There were paramedics there. It was all this noise, and it was awful. But I remember when the first tower fell, like, the entire building just started rumbling and shaking. Right. I'm at my desk, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And I remember I went over to the window, and I, like, put my head against it, and I could kind of look up the street, and you could see the building collapsing on itself. And then it just created this tidal wave that started shooting down the street,
Oh my god.
and everybody started running, and there was a cloud that was rolling, and it looked like a tidal wave, and there's just chunks of debris and glass, and everybody's screaming. It was horrible. Um,
Sounds like
but
hell.
it was awful, dude. And so that was terrible, because I'm like, what just happened? Who got
Yeah.
hurt or worse, right? And seeing this debris tidal wave come down the street, it just swallowed people up. You would see them running, and then it would just envelop them, and it would just keep going, right? And after that, like, made its way 2 blocks up to where I was, I saw it coming. I was like, all right, I got to get away from the window because I don't know what's going to happen. And then you would just see this smoke just cover the window, and the whole room would get dark, right? And it was really loud, and then it got really eerily quiet. Like, then you couldn't hear anything, and
Uh-huh.
then the smoke kind of crept up to the window. And because a lot of the buildings in Manhattan are old, the
Mhm.
weather stripping around the windows is
Yeah.
pretty bad. And, like, the smoke started actually creeping in through the windows. So
Uh-huh.
even though these windows did not open, they were not sealed very well. And then the smoke started coming in. I'm like, oh God, like, this is
Yeah.
creepy. And after that, then you could start to hear all the, like, sirens, and um the the fire rescue people had these beacons on them that I don't know how they work, but all I know is you could start to hear these beacons all go off,
Okay.
because that would be the thing that they would use to, like, locate each
Locate
other.
each other. Yeah, with the smoke.
It was just, yeah, sorry, I probably have to stop talking about it because it's pretty
I understand.
emotional.
It's
um,
remarkable to live through something like that.
yeah, well, it was terrible, man. It was really wild. At some point later, I'll just finish the story and then we'll move on. But a couple hours later, I think I was there from, like, 7 a.m., and then the first plane hit at like 8:15 or something like that,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
like another 15 or 30 minutes later, and I was basically, we were all in the building until about noon, right? So all that stuff had happened, and everybody was starting to evacuate, and finally they said, okay, you guys, you can all leave.
Mhm.
So we grabbed. I think I took a shirt, like, that I had with me, or like a jacket or something, and I just wet. I remember reading somewhere or watching a show somewhere that said if you wet a fabric, like
Mhm.
a shirt or something, it can filter out smoke.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in a burning building and you wet, like, a shirt and put it over your head or your face, it can protect you. So
Yeah.
I and other people did that, and then we went out in the street, and it was just like, camera crews running around, fire rescue running around, and
Yeah.
we made our way. up I think to like 40th Street or something like that, and that's where basically because um, the ferries and like the train station was just gone. It had caved in. Nobody could get in or out.
Yikes.
But the ferries to New Jersey were still operating, but they couldn't dock over at the trade center because that was all just
Yeah.
a disaster scene. So they started redirecting, like every ferry that they had in the area started coming, and they were just picking up people by the boatload. Didn't matter if you had a ticket; they were like, "Just get on and get out of here." So
Wow.
thousands of people. The line was like a mile long, and you'd get on, and people would be showing up, and they'd be covered in rubble. They'd be cut, like it looked like somebody took like talcum powder and just like threw it on their face because like they were just
Just
like
caked.
covered in like debris and dust and like blood. People would have cuts on them,
Oof.
and it was nightmarish. And thankfully anybody who was there was able to get up and walk around, and you would certainly see people helping other people. So that was actually, if there's anything positive to take from it, is in the face of tragedy, you will see people actually do very kind things
Yeah.
for each other.
Yeah.
Um, and anyway, we got on the boat and went over to Hoboken, and they basically said, "Hey, anybody who was within X blocks of the trade center, go on this line, and everybody else go on that line." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Well, I was 2 blocks away, so I'm in that zone." And basically, they had a like a shower tent set up,
Mhm.
so you would just stand in a group with a bunch of people, and then the fire department would just hose you down. Like,
Okay.
because they said, listen, they were saying that they weren't sure, if the planes had any, chemicals on them, or if it was just the fuel or what. Like nobody really
Yeah.
knew exactly what happened, so they were just, I think, to be safe, they
A
were
basic safety thing.
washing people down. So then, I was soaking wet, and then me and a whole bunch of other people who were in that group, we just kind of walked away, and my phone had died at that point because here was the other thing: the communications for the whole south of Manhattan had been knocked out. There was a television switching station that had failed,
Mhm.
and a lot of calls were trying to be routed through less equipment, and your cell phone will, when you turn it on, it tries to connect to a tower, but
Yeah.
if it can't, it just keeps pinging and looking for, at least some. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong here, but to my understanding, if your phone can't grab a tower, it just keeps trying, and it'll
Sure.
actually wear the battery down faster.
Yeah. Eats a lot of
So
energy.
my phone was dead. I was like soaking wet and miserable. I was with a whole bunch of other people who were all just trying to like
Mhm.
take care of each other or whatever. And I remember the first thing I did is I was walking toward my, actually I was walking toward my sister's place, and I ran into like the wife of the drummer in the band that I was playing in at the time, and she goes, "Dave's at home. Go on over there, take a load off." And I said, "All right." And the first thing I did is I walked to the liquor store, bought a bottle of bourbon, and then just went over there and proceeded to drink. And I don't drink anymore, but at the time I did, and that was a day of heavy drinking, as you can
Yeah.
imagine.